expected aliens to talk a lot, but there it was. It's the door to the spaceship opened, and my wife and I went outside. We were surprised to see aliens looked just like us. That's a true story. That really happened. So, there are a few clues, there are a few keys in here that this is being told in the first person. Namely, the story is happening to the person that's telling the story. But also, there are a lot of keywords in here that can really clue you in. I'm going to highlight them now. Let's take a look at these pronouns that I just highlighted. I, my, me, we, us. These are all pronouns that imply that this story is being told from the first person. I is the most important one. But also we could exist. And we might get some of the objective pronoun me, or possessive pronouns mine, or our. If these pronouns were in quotation marks, right, if they were quotes by characters, that wouldn't necessarily be the case. But since they are in the normal narration, since they're in the storytelling part and not the dialogue part, it lets us know that this is a first person narrator. Got it? Now, let's move on to second person narration. What the heck is that? Second person narration is
15 seconds.
Oh crap.
is the story being told in a you perspective. The POV belongs to the person being spoken to. And so in this case, the narrator is talking to you, the reader. This is less common in works of fiction, but there are some examples of it out there. It does happen. I often think of second person things like instruction manuals, or anytime you're looking at directions. Insert tab A into slot B, attach part QR3 to part 2X9, or whatever. But it can also be used in fiction. Don't believe me? Let's take a look at an example. Okay, here we go. You wake up in the cabin. The sun is shining in your eyes. You can smell coffee already brewing, and your dog is looking at you from the door. This is a work of fiction, but it's done in the second person. It's talking to the reader. This is a way of making the story maybe a little more intimate, making it a little easier for the reader to put themselves into the story. Like I said, it's not very common, but it is something that happens, and it can be a fun alternative to the normal types of storytelling. Let's look at one.
So real quick, someone raise your hand and tell me first person point of view. What does it mean? See, what does it mean? Jay?
The story is told from the I or the we perspective. Events happen to the narrator or witnessed by the narrator.
Okay, yeah. So the person who's telling the story is in the story, right? When we look at, so I know they talk a lot about like which pronouns, so it's like I and we, it's first person. Does dialogue count for that? Do we look at dialogue whenever we're trying to figure out point of view? No. What point of view is dialogue always going to be in? No. No.
First.
Whoever's talking, if a character in the story is talking, they're going to say, I did this, we went here. But is that the actual narrator? No. Dialogue is different from when the story is actually being told by the narrators. You cannot look inside dialogue to figure it out. What about second person? What is second person point of view? Alan? Yes. So it's talking to the reader, basically. A lot of times, like he said, instructions are in second person, right? When they tell you what to do, like if you're being told how to bake a cake, they say preheat the oven to 450 degrees. Who's preheating the oven?
Me.
You, the person reading. So they're talking to the reader. They're saying you do this, you do that. Also, stories is not as common. The one time it is common is usually in plays. So usually in a play, at one point, the character is going to talk directly to the audience, and they'll say, you do blah, 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 you feel this, all this stuff. That's also second point of view. But other than plays and directions, we usually rarely ever see it. No. Okay. So now we have the three types of third person. This is the important stuff. This is the one that we keep forgetting. We have omniscient, limited omniscient, and then objective. He's going to talk talk to you about each one. We're going to talk about them whenever we're done. So write your definitions as we go.
Greetings and salutations, students. In this episode, Mr. Armstrong teaches point of view, third person, omniscient, limited omniscient, and objective. This is the second part of a two-part lesson that covers point of view. In the first video, I reviewed first person narration and second person narration. That one is required viewing before we get to third person narration. Let's not waste any more time. Let's dive right in. First, with a definition of third person in general. What is third person narration? I'll show you. Go ahead and write this definition down. Third person narration is narration wherein
This is just general third person. This is the one that we should know.
Do we have to write down the last part? Even the pronouns? Or the. You have to write the pronouns.
What?
Himself.
and the story is told about people by someone outside of the story. And this one uses third person pronouns. So in first person it was I or we pronouns. In second person it was you. And in this one it's basically all the rest. It could be he, him, his, himself, she, her, hers, herself, it, its, itself, they, them, their, theirs, and themselves. I wrote them all down. You should too. But that's how third person narration works. And it is very common. It is so common, in fact, there are different versions of third person narration. And I'm going to teach you about them now. Pause if you need to, because
I'll give y'all like 15 more seconds.
All of that.
The more times you ask me, the more seconds you are wasting.
Seconds.
Seconds.
Alright. Minutes.
All of them.
It's already 6:30. Class is going by fast. I'm happy. Ready to go home early. I could
As soon as you're done, stay quiet.
Oh,
I'm done with this. Whole thing.
Adapt. I ate
I ate Chick-fil-A. I ate Chick-fil-A this
No,
morning.
write it all down.
That's how you ruin your own life.
Huh? That's how you ruin your what?
10 seconds.
Hey, guys, shush.
This bitch is
Hi, ho.
Are you done?
almost. I got four words left.
Why you ruining it?
Yep, I'm done.
Hot stool. Bryson, why did you hot stool it?
Stop it.
Bryson,
Stop it.
we're not done, but.
Stop saying that bad word.
Yeah, Bryson. No, Bryson. No, please. Guys, shut.
the first type of third person narration I want to look at is third person omniscient. This is when the narrator knows everything about the story at all time freely. They can tell us what any character is thinking or feeling. They know everything about the story. In fact, that word omniscient, omniscient, is a Latin word that means essentially all-knowing, knows everything. And so a third person omniscient narrator is essentially like a god in the story. They know everything about everyone, every detail in the story, every point in time. They know it all, and they can tell us it all. That doesn't mean they will tell us everything. They're still trying to tell a good story after all, and sometimes that means leaving out information to build tension. But they know everything. They could tell us anything. Third person omniscient. Let's take a
Wow.
Everything after this is based on this one word. So omniscient means you know everything, what every character is thinking and feeling, you know what's going to happen in the future, you know everything. And as the narrator, they tell you those things.
How many words are together?
Two more.
Video? What?
No, two word definitions, we are right. We are at 15 seconds. Do you want to be able to write it?
Can't see?
No,
I can't see on my arm.
Right in 5 minutes later. This shall be the. No, I'm just joking.
Okay, so we're going to look at an example of this, and then we're going to move on to limited. We good?
No.
Only like 2 sentences.
No, it's not.
It's 3.
Oh, I'm so sorry, it's 3 sentences.
Concrete.
It's not 4.
Oh, it is 4.
Actually, no. Actually.
You're the teacher, you should know.
That is 2 words.
Yeah, Biggie.
And it still has a period.
Okay, bye.
Alright, this first one. Boris was worried about the gray skies,
Y'all
but it
pay
wouldn't rain
attention
for
to this.
another
Showing
3
you
months.
what to
His
look
sister Sam, she was excited about the prospect of rain. She wanted to put on her new boots and stomp around in puddles. Her mother hated it, but she didn't care. Alright, so there's a few clues in this short little passage. First of all, the narrator knows what people are thinking. The narrator knows first that Boris is worried. Later, that his sister is excited. The narrator also told us that it wouldn't rain for 3 more weeks. That's a glimpse into the future. Once again, the narrator knows everything. There's also a mention to how the mother is feeling at the bottom, but basically, this narrator can get inside of anyone's heads, anyone's emotions, and they know everything about the story. Let's look at another example. The bear was hungry and searching for berries when the spaceship appeared. The aliens were curious and hovered just above the large mammal. They were seeking food too, and would never realize how much they had in common with the bear. So once again, even though we have an animal in this one, the narrator knows what's going on with that animal, because the narrator knows everything. The narrator is omniscient. The narrator also knows what's going on with these aliens, and can draw some comparisons between this bear and these aliens. The narrator knows everything. Doesn't mean they'll tell us everything, but they know everything. And that's what an omniscient third person is. Now let's take a look at limited omniscience. Okay. So limited omniscience is similar to omniscience, but is limited. In these types of stories, the narrator tells us everything about a single character. We stick with the thoughts and feelings of one. This could change from chapter to chapter, having a different character being followed in each chapter, but the narrator is limited to knowing only one character's thoughts, emotions, etc. Essentially, we're kind of inside one character's head, and we follow that character around. We know what that character thinks, but we don't know what anyone else is thinking. We don't know what anyone else has going on inside. And so it's limited to just one character. And once again, this can change in a book. Perhaps each chapter follows one particular character, right? You might have multiple main characters, or sometimes we stick with a side character in a chapter, but then we go back to the main character. So this can shift and change within a story, but essentially it means that the narrator is focused on one character's thoughts and emotions. Let's look.
So just like the name suggests, perspective change throughout a story?
Yes.
Yes. So just like he said, at one point it could be on one character. A lot of times books will do it by chapter. If you've ever read a book like that where one chapter was one character and another chapter was another character and it keeps going back and forth, it's still limited omniscient. It's just changing that character every chapter. Alright, I'm gonna give y'all about 15 more seconds.
I already went to next page because I ran on Zoom.
So the last one, if you look, the title was third person objective. Does anyone have any guesses for how this has been going, what we think third person objective could be?
There's a lot of objective.
They know what?
Objective?
Not like objective as in like you have an objective. Think about objective writing. Or you don't have to know what the word means.
You have an objective of writing.
No, you don't have to know what the word means. Think about it. Omniscient, we knew every character's thoughts and feelings. Limited, we know one character's thoughts and feelings. What do we think objective could be? What's the only thing left?
None.
None.
Yeah.
No character's thoughts and feelings.
They just know what's the point. What's
So we'll see. We're gonna look at the example here for this first though. Are we ready to move on?
No.
We'll give y'all like 10 more seconds. We still got an example for this and the
Done.
next one.
Hey, you can, I'm done. I'm done. Booyah.
Let's look at some examples.
Okay.
Here we go. It was starting to get dark and a chilly wind began to blow. Toby was frowning, but Yuki didn't know why. She was afraid it was her fault and, in her mind, replayed all the things she had said to him. Then she noticed that he was looking at his hands. He was holding them. Yuki wondered if that was the source of his unhappiness. So in this example, we have two different characters, Yuki and Toby. Toby seems to be upset, but all that we know about Toby is what can be observed. Essentially what Yuki is observing about Toby. But we're inside Yuki's head. We know what Yuki is thinking. We know what Yuki is feeling. But we can only make guesses about Toby. Because while this character is omniscient about Yuki, it is limited to Yuki. We don't know about other characters. Omniscient, but limited. Let's look at another example. This was a little bit longer and it features some dialogue. Catalina wanted their
So
sword.
this is what I was talking about. In that last line, it says, "Good afternoon, Dragon Slayer. I've been expecting you." That I in the dialogue, did that I mean that this is first person?
No.
No, because it's in the dialogue. We have to look outside of the dialogue. It says he said and smiled. We know it's third person.
Door creaked when she entered the swordsmith's shop, and the old smith turned to look at her. She thought he saw a helpless little girl. She used to be afraid of having to prove herself, but now she looked forward to it, and was disappointed when he spoke. "Good afternoon, Dragon Slayer. I've been expecting you," he said, and smiled. So once again, while we have two characters in this scene, we only know what one of them is thinking, Catalina. We don't ever know what's inside the swordsmith's head for real. We might be able to guess based on what he says, based on his actions, but we don't know for sure, like we do about Catalina. We also know a little bit about Catalina's past based on this. The narrator is omniscient about Catalina, knows everything about Catalina's story, but not other characters. So this is, once again, third person, limited omniscience. Got it? Alright, there's only one more type of third person narration that we're going to take a look at. Let's get to it! And lastly, third person objective. In third person objective narration, the narrator is neutral and can only explain what can be experienced with the senses. Can be seen, heard, smelled, tasted, or touched. No information is given about what the characters are thinking or feeling. This is almost like eavesdropping. We just observe a story. We don't actually get inside of anyone's head. We don't know for sure what anyone is thinking or feeling. This is probably the one that's most like real life. We can never really know what people are thinking, what people are feeling, but sometimes we can observe interactions. And that's what this is like. Let's take a look at some examples.
So the reason why they call it objective is because when we think of the word objective, there expected to do, like a task to complete. But objective is also, it just means factual. It means that there's no emotions. The opposite of objective is subjective. If something is subjective, it's all about your feelings and what you think. But if it's objective, it's just about the facts. So they call it third person objective because you only have the facts that are laid out in front of you. You only have what you would be able to see in real life. You don't get what any character is thinking or feeling. We got about 15 more seconds. The last one.
I can't say it in 1 minute.
Okay, we're about to move on. Are we good?
Yeah.
Do not share real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Another paper?
No, yeah, this is.
Paper.
Mom has a pen.
What is paper? Little brown?
It's not paper. Oh, not new.
No paper.
No, what's oh my gosh.
Wait, why do I have But I'm not. No. I'm just not. I'm good.
Okay, before we get into this, let's look at this example real quick.
Let me see. Take a look at this one. The breeze rustled through the trees.
This is still
The old woman
objective.
and young man sat on the bench in
You
silence.
gave us 2
They watched
minutes.
the ducks and occasionally smiled at what they saw. Thank you for bringing me here, said the young man. It's been too long. The old woman smiled and patted his knee. For me too, she said. It was your grandfather's favorite place. So in this example, while we might be able to guess what these characters are thinking or feeling, we don't know for sure. Everything that is mentioned is just something that could be observed with your senses. The breeze and the trees, the two people sitting there, the smile on their face, the words that they speak. Any of this could be observed by any passerby. The narrator is not privy to the thoughts or emotions of these characters.
So this should have been a refresher. Now, has anyone ever heard of omniscient, limited, and objective after we talked about it?
No.
Okay. If not, this is something that you do need to be aware of. There is going to be questions like this on the packet. There's only one question like this on the packet. There is a question about point of view on your common assessment this week. I can't see your benchmarks, so I don't know, but I'm going to assume that there's probably one on there as well. So we need to be able to know the difference between limited, objective, and omniscient. But for now, let's look at the paper that I gave you. You've got, it's 12 questions. They're split up into 5 different passages. Usually this is like a bell work thing, but we're just going to do it as a worksheet instead. So for every passage on the sides, you've got different questions asking you about either author's purpose or point of view, because remember they go together. So when they say, which of the following would the author agree with, that's a point of view question. Remember, point of view is about how you feel about it. So after reading this, think about how would they feel about teens and distracted driving. For number 2, it says, what evidence does the author use to support his point of view? So remember, we support our point of view with evidence. It's got to be facts. in the passage, you're telling me what do they use. So do they talk about surveys, studies, observations, or articles, whatever it is, you circle in or you fill in that correct answer. Number 3 is getting into the point of view. It's asking you what point of view this passage is in, and the part B as well. Now I want you to look at day 3. It's the front of the second page. It's a part A, part B. Part A is asking how is the author's point of view different from that of the court. So they're talking about a court case here, and I want to know how is it different from what the court agreed with. You're answering it here, and then if you look for part B, you're telling me which sentence best supports the answer. How do I answer that question? Do I write the sentence here? Do you have enough space to write the sentence here? So what do you think we're doing? Look at the passage. What do you notice? Kaylee? You can either write or you can just color in the letter. You don't have to write it down. But like, you can notice these 4 sentences have A, B, C, and D next to them. So those are the 4 options. They labeled it in the passage. So whichever one sentence you think gives the best evidence, you're just coloring in that number or that letter. Okay? Everything is multiple choice except for the very last question. The last question, so you've got, once again, your part A, part B, asking how he feels, and then finally, how would the expert from point of view? This is probably a couple sentences. I just need you to tell me the narrative. So, I character is someone, I want to know if it was written from a different character, what would change, what would we know, what would we not know, so on and so forth.
Every single page.
Well, not really.
Can I go home?
No.
Please. Y'all walk home.
Do you use for homework, or do you want to go home?
Yeah,
Whatever.
I'll figure it out.
I'm not gonna start walking home. I'm gonna start walking home, guys. Can I walk home, please? Please.
Y'all put grades in chat.
Oh.
And y'all know after this week we have what? Thanksgiving come back for 2 weeks and then that's it, and then report cards go out.
Okay.
I got some people who are not acting like report cards are coming out very soon.
We're out in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we got I'm not trying to give y'all like that at the end of every term.
It is the end of every term.
We're out.
December is the end of second term.
December 1st.
After, when we go for Christmas, that's halfway.
So, yeah.
That's halfway through the year, is Christmas.
Oh yeah. So we're already close to halfway.
New Year.
Wait. So before we have Christmas, we're gonna have a report card.
No, it's after Christmas.
Love.
When you know what is, I'm gonna send notes, emails,
I'm gonna
to
get
every
home for
parent.
Christmas.
If you're failing my class, I'm
Wait,
sending
what?
notes home.
I'm passing.
I'll tell you right now, what you're doing right now is for a grade. So
How's everyone wait up?
it should, if you do it.
How's everyone?
Do that.
Yeah, but I want it to be more higher.
Do it in December.
I'm feeling bad.
And I just put in, hey, I put in grades today, missing grades for the vocabulary, and no new person has turned in the history of Halloween. I still got like 6 people in here who have not turned that in. That's a 1. That sits in the grade book.
Did I?
Okay, I'm
I
done.
did, sir.
You go look. I did.
I don't even know
Can we like hide up, please?
But yeah, before Christmas, anyone who's failing, their parents are getting an email home.
I'm feeling bad.
I'm letting y'all know now, y'all got 4 weeks to fix it.
It says 54.
So what if we, so how do you feel?
Like,
Less than 60.
Like less than a 60 on one report card?
what if you get 76?
Overall, for the year. But
I'm packing up. I don't care.
average all 4 you're not making.
I think it's time to go.
I think it is.
Wait. Come on.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Edgar.
Wow. Julie.
Jace. Aubrey.
Aubrey Harris. Heroes in town.
Yeah.
Gotta be a princess.
Skylar.
Oh my god! Mom? No problem. Suck it up. Make me. What?
If you did not turn, if you
None
didn't get a
of
bell
this
work
is.
back, do you hear me talking? Close your mouth.
She talked to me first.
I asked a question before you started talking.
If you did not get a paper back, a spell work back, and you did not turn one in, and you have a 0. Okay. You just turn yours into me to put on some. And then that has to go into No, that was just my instructions. Alright, Gavin. One more time, get silent lunch, big fight.
I fell.
Turn around.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
What's wrong? Be quiet, Jace.
Name 3 vegetables. Can I use a pen?
No, use a pencil.
Why?
Because I said so.
I'm getting one Is it celery?
Celery?
Long stick green.
Oh, I know another.
So, Reagan.
Don't tell me that was my phone. That's my 16 now. So I gotta throw you that up. Okay, that wasn't Nope, wasn't mine.
Yeah, next week I'm not going to be here.
Oh, bro. Got 2 cables, got a big flashlight. I know it is. You got it.
Alright, I need you guys in your seats. Sit and turn around.
And
Green pepper, celery, and cucumber.
None of them are on there?
It is?
oh, tails.
Celery. Come
Broccoli
here and sit. And get out your bell work.
and green beans.
Beans are not green.
Some beans are green beans.
Which I hate. I hate green beans.
These are disgusting, bro.
What on?
Alright, class.
What did you
The only person who should hear is Kayla. Zip it. Oh.
Give the chemical symbol for any 3 of the following: oxygen, aluminum, whatever that word is, iron, and gold.
Gold is a Gold is a
It doesn't label them, but that's on their something.
7th grade when you do the periodic table.
Oh yeah, my cousin does it. It's hot. Actually, it's not even that hot.
Class! Quiet! I cannot hear her, which means you probably can't hear her. Everyone should be turned around face forward. Skylar, turn around.
You will find all 109 of these listed on the periodic table. Connor.
Elements.
What the lines the longest you measured? Jay.
The
What?
how about line?
Miss, it's
How high?
0 to 180.
Hey,
Can I put distance?
Can I just put distance?
horizontally?
I'm just gonna put
primary
primary.
because that's just like really bad.
I'm gonna put distance.
Distance.
Just put horizontally for number 4.
Just put distance east or west of the prime meridian. Put E or W. Don't throw out east or west. Just put distance E or W. It's not that much writing, y'all.
We don't have that much room.
This yellow mineral is poisonous, but it's yellow. Used as medicine.
Well, I mean, that's why that's here. That's why this is here too. And show my knee and some my own body. It's not funny, but it would. It's not funny. She's laughing.
I wasn't laughing at you, I was laughing at others.
Why? Because you wanted to know? No. Can I wait till lunch to eat? No. Starving. Starving like so bad gorilla. Starving like so bad gorilla. And my butt hurts so bad. And my eye.
She's going to Miss Lynn.
It was mine and bad with
Miss Lynn.
Miss Pig.
What?
How keep getting called Miss Lynn?
Miss Gracia. Mr. Window.
Let's go. Miss Lynn has so many The only element I know how to do this.
Yes.
Please.
No.
Ha.
Jerry.
It's always Jerry.
Sodium.
No. Okay, I need y'all to stop talking. Close your mouths. Turn around your seat, face forward. So we're gonna go over, we're doing the sun this week. Friday, you're gonna have these are your notes. These notes you need to hang on to.
The sun will never explode until like 10 billion years from now.
And they look completely different.
Alright, so where is the sun located in Milky Way galaxy? So there's your Milky Way galaxy. There's the sun down there. It's labeled sun. So the sun is located about 26,000 light years away from the center of our galaxy.
26,000? And how long would it take to get to the Milky
Isn't it
Way?
like 73 million light years from the Earth?
We're in the Milky Way.
The Milky Way.
I mean to get to the center of the Milky Way.
Miss Jones.
See how wide it is?
Miss Jones, we
Alright, so it's located in the inner rim of the Orion Arm. What?
isn't it like the 79 million light years from the Earth?
It's less you.
Thanks, y'all.
96 million miles away from the Earth.
Oh. 93 million. The sun.
The sun is 26,000 light
We
years.
have so many stars.
Guys,
I thought we were gonna
guys,
What is your problem?
nothing.
What's wrong with you today?
That's all. That's all.
Shut up.
We got beat
I
up.
think so too.
We got beat
Punch
up.
your head, it's messed up something.
He told me to.
Alright,
Yeah, I did.
so how large is the sun compared to the planets? So this gives you just like a little idea. So it says the composite above shows the sun and the 5 largest planets. Earth is the little tiny one that's in between Jupiter and the
Is that
sun.
a fire
So,
monster? What is that? Why are we so small?
so Earth is right there. Kind of gives you an idea.
What is that? What is that?
Okay, you guys, stop talking while I am. It is rude. Raise your hand if you have something to say. Just stop talking out. The next time you do something, you can sit in silent lunch. I'm tired of hearing you.
I'm not even doing
What?
nothing.
Good idea. Yes, Jerry.
Why do we look at the size of Pluto?
Why do we what?
Why do we look at the size of Pluto?
We don't look like the size of Pluto. Oh well.
We're
We're the smallest one out there.
Exactly.
Where's Mercury?
We wouldn't even see Mercury.
It's just given a few. Alright, yes.
What was that like red thing?
Oh, we're gonna go over that. Alright, so how large is the sun compared to Earth? So we're just gonna give you like little comparisons to kind of, sometimes I think a visual, for me I learn better when I have visuals. So it says, if the sun was like a 12-inch hollowed out basketball, so basketball's about what, like that? So then you could take and fit 1 million Earths inside of it. So that kind of tells you how big the sun is, Gavin, turn around,
It's on the
in reference to Earth. So if you had a basketball, we're just trying to tell you how big the Earth is compared to the sun. So if you pretend the sun is like a basketball, you can fit 1 million Earths inside that basketball. So that's how big the sun is in comparison to a itty little Earth. No, I don't understand. You're asking about atmosphere?
Like how many Earths you can put in the atmosphere of it? Or like
No,
just on the outside?
in it.
If the sun was like a hollow ball,
That's how many Earths you can
that's
fit.
how many you get. It's just trying to give you a size reference.
About the sun picture, like on the side
Sit down.
Oh, that's why.
If you raise your hand and wait to be called on,
What are so small?
sit down.
Hey,
And y'all,
put it the size of Venus.
I can hear you from your seat. Stop.
Which one of those last?
Miss Jones?
Why are you looking at me?
Because
he's that
he's
is-
annoying me also.
Nothing.
Because y'all should know how to act. You're in 6th grade. So what I'm gonna start doing is calling home. Be quiet. Stop talking out. Not bruh. It's common sense. I mean, raise your hands.
But math is not math. And the blue thing, it says our sun has a 1.5
I can't read
million
it so
kilometers.
now.
The math is not
And the
that big,
Earth
y'all.
has
It's-
13,000. 13,000 times a million is not.
Okay, well, I'm not asking you to math right now. We're just trying to give you like
Yeah,
an
that's
idea. It's just like an idea. It's not like exact. It's just trying to give you an idea of the size of Earth in comparison to the sun.
Yeah.
So it's not like exact numbers. It's not exact